Welcome back, guys. Last week's video was about leather. I really hope some of you took up John's and Alex's offer on that handmade, not really, kangaroo leather that they've hand selected and has been tanned to give it a very good finish for falconry. Low stretch and tough stuff indeed. Really good prices, certainly half a skin for most falconers. There's pretty much a lifetime supply of leather for you right there. So, also, of course, on the channel, it's all been going on about the falconer gathering. That's not what this video is about, but I'm certainly going to plug it. Get on this Facebook group. If you live in the UK, you must get on this Facebook group. See what's going on. Keep up to date with who's coming and what's going on. If you don't live in the UK, why not pop over? Meet some like-minded people. Have a chat about the falconry in your country and have a chat with like-minded people about the falconry here in the UK, because there's pluses and minuses wherever you are in the world for sure. I guess if you live in a country where it's illegal, then yeah, it's not many pluses for you. But come to the falconer gathering. This is just a bit of a cast my mind back to a long time ago when common buzzards were very much the first bird for many sort of short-wing type falconers. Now and then possibly go on to fly red tails or goshawks. So we all say the bad thing about having a beginner's bird. You know, a Harris hawk is a good beginner's bird before you get a goshawk. If you're really passionate and you're going to fly a bird for 30 years, just get the goshawk. Why get a bird that's a stepping stone? Where's it going to go? And so on and so forth. Because as we all know, for most people, one falconry bird you can do a fantastic job of. Very difficult for many of us to fly 2 short wings through the season, because time, land and game is so critical. So back before the Harris hawk was invented, the common buzzard was the poor person's, generally like the poor man's short wing. I know it's a broad wing, or a stepping stone bird, a bird that people got because it was cheap to practice on, like the Harris hawk now, until they flew something maybe a bit faster or with a bit more prowess that at the end of the day they wanted to skill up on with something cheap and available before they spent money on something else. Yeah, morals and ethics there. Going to back when I was in my mid to late teens, where did you find birds if you didn't know a network of falconers? And bearing in mind there was no internet, so most people, only a few people knew a network of falconers. Most novices would have been lucky to know a decent falconer. So people would go on to Cajun Aviary birds or the Exchange and Mark. Now I don't mean Cajun Aviary birds online website, that didn't exist. They had a newspaper that came out weekly, I believe, Cajun Aviary Bird magazine, and there was a Exchange and Mark, which I guess a bit like if you go on things like Pre-Loved, it was like a paper version of that. You could buy anything on there, including birds and animals. My best ever advert on there was for lurchers, and it said, "Sire has taken all legal quarry. Dam has taken all legal quarry, including burglars." And I just thought, what a cool advert. Anyway, that's about dogs. That's where you got your birds from. Common buzzards back then, so as I was about 18, 20, I think they were £100. They might have been £200. And Harris hawks were £850. Goshawks were about £1,000 upwards. Red tails were £450. Think about the prices now. How strange is that? All these years later, with all that inflation, common buzzards would be about £350 now. Gone up a bit, inflation. Harris hawks until the last couple of years would have been about £250. Wow. Goshawks, probably the same, £350 to, I don't know, £750 for an ordinary looking goshawk, an ordinary looking goshawk. Prices have dropped. Falconers in the UK have never had it so good when it comes to the financial implication to falconry. Things have really changed. Falconry is all way cheaper to do now than it was sort of 30 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. Things have really changed. It allows in the dabbler, of course, though that's only a few quid, I'll have a go. That's the problem. So these common buzzards, they were probably what at the time the lugger falcon was to the peregrine. The common buzzard was to the goshawk. Lugger falcons weren't renowned for the prowess of the peregrine, buzzards are not renowned for the prowess of a goshawk, but they were both easier to obtain, they were cheaper, and they were quite tough things to, I'm going to say, practice on, which is what was being done for many cases like the Harriswalk now. Certainly not a word you'd want to use or associate. So I flew a goshawk when I was 21. I sort of worked up from owls, had a dabble with a red tail, yes, and I did dabble, and an imprinted red tail that of course wasn't imprinted when I bought it, and so on and so forth. I had no idea what I was doing. And then I settled down and really knuckled down and sort of did a lot of research, spoke to people that I knew. That was 2 or 3 falconers, and I got my first goshawk at 9.5 weeks old. How much was that? It was over £1,000, and I earned £95 a week. See how things have changed. My friend got a common buzzard. He'd also trained eagle owls and things, and he wanted to have a diurnal raptor. We were going out together. He got a common buzzard. He could not justify. I was single. He was married. He could not justify to his wife spending. Actually, I wasn't single, but he was married. Justify spending that amount of money on a falconry bird. And he spent a couple of £100 on a buzzard, and it weighed £1.12.5 I believe. I think it was a male. To give you some idea, £1.12.5 And the only thing that held my goshawk back from catching stuff was the falconer. Once it was anything like keen, goshawks just want to generally kill stuff anyway. That's not a problem. Much more harder work. Novice with a goshawk took me longer. Had it on the creance for way too long, so I thought I'd lose it. And telemetry wasn't really a thing then. So although it was in practice, in use, so I got a bird that was eager to kill. I was just scared of losing it. He got a bird that the first time he flew it free, it flew to the end of the field, treed up as a buzzard does, any buteo does, and it was above, it was in a tree, but nothing but countryside this way, the M1 motorway sort of behind it, and my friend was like, oh gosh, please fly back to me, because if you fly the other way, where are you going to go? If you don't get run over, we've got to find a way to find you without telemetry on the other side of a motorway. It probably sat in a tree for 20 minutes, which seemed like 4 hours. Came down, and in his eyes, perfect. I know where I am with the buzzard. Now we'll try and hunt with it. And to be honest, the buzzard man down easier. It was much steadier than the goshawk. But he worked much harder to make that bird a made hawk than I ever did with a goshawk. Because remember, the goshawk, you just needed to be responsive and come back when you call it. The hunting side, it does naturally. You need the fitness, etc. But the buzzard's very different. People say the buzzards and the kites are scavengers. Well, both are scavengers. So are golden eagles. So are many raptors. I've even seen footage on something like Springwatch of tawny owls eating off a dead large, I think a deer in Scotland. Owls you do not associate with scavenging, just the way their eyes and ears work. The buzzard and the kite are scavengers. Buzzards are way more rapacious and formidable than kites when it comes to hunting. They've got bigger, stronger feet and legs. If you ever see a kite and you hold its wings out, and we found one fried off a power line recently, you hold its wings out, its tail's a foot long, its wings are massive. It's not that big a bird, and its feet are seriously, they're like just slightly souped up kestrel feet. It's ridiculous. Buzzards are different, they're made differently. They're made like all the buteos and a lot of the eagles, they're made to conserve calories, do the very least. So they're clever birds. They learn. We say they're lazy, they're clever. They learn how to save calories. So the general diet of a buzzard would generally be small ground game. They're called ratoneros in Spain and mousers. In the summer, they'll eat a lot of insects. And in the winter, they heavily turn to worms. Worms on wet plough is one of their biggest mainstays. But buzzards eat anything. They eat anything. They'll eat grass snakes. They'll eat roadkill all day long. They'll eat worms. When pushed, and when times were good, small baby rabbits that sit out on a summer's evening or a summer's afternoon, sit out from cover, naive little sort of big hamster-sized little bunnies, which we remember fondly in Northamptonshire, but we rarely ever see now because of VHD. Buzzards soaring 1,000 feet up, what an easy target. They must have ate so many rabbits when rabbits were numerous, dropping out the sky in the summer and basically landing on a rabbit that, at that age, it's only got its jump reflex at that size. They'll eat a lot of rabbits, but will they eat full-grown rabbits? Well, any 2-pound bird getting hold of a winter-fit 3.5-pound rabbit with relatively small feet is going to struggle an awful lot to subdue that animal. And adult rabbits are not a mainstay of the common buzzard, But rabbits themselves as a species, when times are good, they are a mainstay for sure. They'll scavenge them on the roads, they'll eat the young. They'll eat other things, bits of rabbit that they've left behind, other predators, scavenging bits. So, how did he start his buzzard hunting? Because hunt it did, and many rabbits did it catch. Well, it only caught rabbits up to, I think, half grown, possibly 2/3 grown, but it certainly wouldn't start there. He actually was catching little rabbits. Now, again, morals and ethics, put them aside. This is how he got his buzzard hunting. He was ferreting in the summer, late summer, I guess, by the time he's got his buzzard going. Late September, early autumn then. He was rabbiting in the early autumn, in the summer, when it was still hot, the nettles were still up. Little patches of little warrens in amongst nettle beds. And as you know, if you go ferreting and there's young rabbits there, they'll come out, they'll go around in circles and they don't really know what to do. We're talking little tiny rabbits, bless him. And he was getting success, holding the buzzard up high, working the ferret. Little rabbits would pop out when they were numerous, and the bird would take them. And to be honest, although it seems certainly cruel catching a baby anything, he was kind of racking up some success. The bird was switching on, my friend Pete. And in the end, he did take several rabbits, and they got bigger. They got bigger and bigger. But I think, if I remember right, probably half-grown sort of size. Really hard work. It would be like you now trying to hunt with any kind of eagle owl, bubo, whether it's a great horned owl, a Bengal eagle owl, a European eagle owl. If you want a challenge as a falconer, that would be your way to go. I mean, if you want a supreme challenge with very, very little reward, very difficult, thinking outside the box. And the common buzzard was the same. I'm sure there's people that remember common buzzards really well. They remember a great experience, a great time they had in yesteryear, where they were more successful. More hens have always been a common buzzard kind of target, catching them away from ditches where they've got to waddle and hop and do a little fly. They're a good mainstay for something like a common buzzard to get its eye in. But these are all, and so yeah, if you remember fondly your common buzzard and you hunted with it in some success, please comment below. And if you can, put in the sort of year when this was. When did you do this? I love common buzzards, and for my educational side of things, certainly in schools, those and red kites, sparrowhawks, kestrels, barn owls, little owls, golden eagles, peregrine falcons, the British, they're the things I want to be showing kids, not tropical stuff from far, far away. They're the things I want to show people. Well, Dave, you see common buzzards everywhere. They don't need to see them. Kids don't see anything now. They don't look in the sky. Their parents don't take them out. And even to adults, the common buzzard they see soaring every day, people are fascinated to see animals up close and tangible that they might see every day, but from afar. Red kites, you look at a red kite like face to face, it is stunning, it is exquisite in its beauty, how it's made up, absolutely beautiful. Looking through binoculars, you can see that hand close. Everything else, it's different, it's a different experience. So I love British stuff, and I'd love a common buzzard, and I got offered one last year. And I said, yes, please. And he said, it's a youngster of the year. And then I said, the pair are a little bit old. We've got 2 pairs. Do you want the parents as well? Yeah, why not? Why not try and just let them breed? If they breed, they breed. Because at the end of the day, they're not being mass produced. Why not? Because the people that could breed common buzzards, selling them for a couple of £100 each, could breed harrisawks if they could afford a pair. If they could afford a pair back then, even easier. The harrisawks at the time, probably worth, actually at one point were about £2,000 each. Everyone switched to harrisawks because they was as easy to train. They're easier to train. They became the new beginner's bird. But if you're a breeder, why would you have a pen with a pair of common buzzards in that might make you 800 quid if they have 4 youngsters, when you can rear at least 2 clutches of harrisawks a year, maybe £1,000 each? So those aviaries got taken up with harrisawks. The buzzard fell out of favour. Now, here in the UK, we can't trap stuff from the wild and take it willy-nilly. So as those buzzards grew old, no one had young buzzards. No one was interested in breeding buzzards. No one even wanted to buy buzzards. So they fell out of favour. So when I got offered some, there's only a few people in the UK breeding common buzzards. So I took this bird and I said, how old is it? He said, I think it was like 25 weeks. Oh, no. For what I do, I want them fully hard penned and not much more, just ready to leave, because I need these birds when their minds are really impressionable and they're still really able to soak up a strange new world that they're going to get exposed to. Certainly when you expose them to the public, being in schools, experience days. And this buzzard I really struggled with the time I had, but for the job I needed it. This guy was he was as fat, he was spinning the aviary so long with his parents, he was absolutely round. You could not even feel the middle of his keel. It was ridiculous. And he went on a hunger strike for a very, 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 very long time. And then he ate a mouse. I thought, we're here now. And he ate some on the glove. And then he repeated the process for another week. And then he ate a chick. Definitely here now. No, this bird would not switch on. He chilled out if we walked and the dogs were around him in the garden. But he was odd. So I thought, okay, this isn't going to work out for his employment. What a shame. Gave him to a good friend of mine that's got all the time in the world. Very, very patient. And he just sat at home with the telly on, all these big dogs around him. And when he went out, he left the bird bowed out on a soft carpet in his house with the telly on. This bird was sort of man to stimuli all of a sudden, constantly. And I think he had him about 3 days. And he was feeding on the fist. No problem at all. So absolutely brilliant. And he's still got that bird. The parents, however, started doing a bit of sort of courtship and calling in the spring, this spring. The female was massive, really dark, beautiful. And we've got so many common buzzards here. We were coming in and they were on the roof of the semi-covered aviary. And late spring, I found her completely dead. Perfectly fine one day, dead the next, fat as a pig. I don't know what happened. Maybe she was fighting through the roof mesh with a wild buzzard. I don't know what happened. There's no cameras in there. So gutted. So now I've got a male common buzzard. He's probably, I'm going to say 9 years old. A proven breeder. It's certainly not a bird I want to expose to my life with birds of prey, because again, I'd find it almost cruel trying to get him used to what he has to get used to. However, if you're in the UK and you want a male common buzzard, especially for breeding, give me a shout, because this guy's looking for a new home. He's no good here to me. He's taking up space. We're just looking after him, really. So, yeah, common buzzard. I know where there's one going for nothing, to the right person, for sure. But that's the backstory of why these things aren't available now. People stop breeding them. So I took this guy on, failed miserably. The people that still had a younger pair that supplied him, they did say, do you want any this year? Because I've heard, you told us what happened. I did put my name down for female, because I'd love a common buzzard to work with again, but not for hunting, for literally flying to experience days and education, to allow people to get up close and personal with British birds of prey, which at the end of the day, you can keep your harpy eagles. In the UK, like most of Europe, we've got the best birds for falconry. They're already here. We've got goshawks, we've got sparrowhawks, peregrine falcons. It is the best falconry falcon. We've got golden eagles. We've got merlins, for goodness sakes. We've got the best birds here in the UK. If you don't live in the UK and you don't have those species, or you practice falconry with others, let me know. Top trump me. Of course, my friend in Texas, he's going to say, Dave, I get harrisawks on the ranch, mate. There's a top trump. Okay, I'll let you have that. What else could you have? You might have the gerfalcons where you live. Who knows? You might have lanner falcons where you live. Do they beat the peregrine for the most versatile and best looking bird? No. Gerfalcons don't beat. No. I don't care what you Arabs think. I don't care what medieval wealthy people think. Peregrine falcon on the fist. Nothing else can top it other than a male, or rather an adult goshawk. It just looks so good. They work so good. The buzzard, it's a bit like the harrisawk. It doesn't quite have, it's a beautiful bird like a harrisawk, but it doesn't quite have, let's think. Sierra Cosworth, Series 1 RS Turbo. Oh, what else can we think of? Mark 1 Golf GTI, had one of those, they're nice. Really good looking fast cars, and they look the part, they just do. Sitting next to a Lamborghini and a Ferrari, I think you've got to say. they're not quite the top league when it comes to the looks department. And Harris Hawks, horses for courses. Are they a Mexican crow to you? I find them very attractive birds. I think they're beautiful. But a Harris Hawk on the glove, or a mature goshawk, even the immature goshawk nowadays, I'm older, goshawk on the glove, they're not the same. I'm talking looks only. I'm talking looks only. Gerfalcon? Nah. Peregrine. Can't beat it. The buzzard? A little bit dumpy. You could say it looks like a small eagle, but it doesn't, does it, close up? It's got a little wimpy beak. It's a bit bottle-shaped. It doesn't look like a small eagle. You go to Scotland and you say you saw a golden eagle because you saw a buzzard soaring and you didn't know how high it was and therefore you had no idea how big it was. But they just don't have that great look. So I suppose it's how things went from, this is my starter bird, but I'm going to get a goshawk. But I think like now, wrongly now, with a Harris Hawk, people go, oh, I can't catch anything with my Harris Hawk. My mate's got a goshawk. It's so much better. I'm going to get rid of the Harris and get a goshawk. Nope, you just haven't trained that Harris Hawk very well, or you haven't flown it on rich enough land with rich enough game supplies. So if you can't train your Harris Hawk to catch a freezer full of game, yes, you're not going to train a goshawk very well. It will catch more in a point and shoot contest maybe. If you can't catch much with your Harris Hawk, don't look to get another bird. At the end of the day, the bird is capable of catching shed loads of stuff. Your shortcomings of onto the bird. You've got rubbish land for the Harris Hawk. You've got not enough of the right quarry for the Harris Hawk, or you just haven't trained your Harris Hawk well enough. Maybe back in the day with a buzzard, things were a bit different, because genuinely the buzzard is always looking for the shortcut. The buzzard is always looking for things that are much more within its remit. So a fully grown rabbit bolted from a hole off the glove, it doesn't have the sprinting power of a goshawk or even a Harris Hawk or even maybe a red tail. It certainly doesn't have the drive to catch something that big. Why would it? It doesn't want to catch things way bigger than itself that can kick up a fight. It's not wired like that, and it's only got little weaponry, so it's really hard for it to hang on. So therefore, if it does try, it's going to be unsuccessful a lot. It's going to get demoralised. Confidence will drop. It'll look to the easier things, like they do in the wild. So someone that did really well, like my friend with a common buzzard, and caught stuff regular, even though it was small stuff, I guess you can see why those people will be like, oh, do you know what? I've worked hard with this, but we're only ever going to catch baby rabbits, half-grown rabbits. I want to move on to something with more prowess that's going to catch more stuff that we can eat as well, maybe. But food for thought, an absolute waffle. I just wanted to do a species spotlight. I haven't done one for ages. And I looked at the common buzzards day and I thought, why is that bird sitting there? That bird could be really helpful to someone, either maybe on display in another Falconry centre, or as a proven breeding male, someone I hope's got a female in the UK looking for love. There you go. Let me know. Don't just all barrage me with message, I want your common buzzard. You'd have to prove where it's going. And like I say, ideally, a Falconry centre or someone that's got a female that like me, sees the worth in breeding them. And I don't mean the value for money, the worth in keeping common buzzards breeding here in the UK, so they are available for those that want to work with them. By the way, did I tell you the Falconer Gathering is coming in September, and you should be there. Try and be there. Make it great. You all made it great last year. Make it better this year. Catch you next time.